Welcome to the FullyCrypto podcast.
It's been a long time. We shouldn't have left you without a podcast to step to. It's a nice little 90s introduction for you there, but this is the FullyCrypto podcast, your home of quality blockchain and cryptocurrency news, reviews, opinion, and more. My name is Mark Hunter, and with me is the only man who Craig Wright hasn't sued. It's Alex Mears.
Good morning, sir. How are you today?
I am finally starting to feel better. I can only apologise for my absence in the past couple of weeks. It's felt like so long since we sat down and recorded this. So I'm feeling almost better, well enough to sit down and chew the crypto cud with you, my friend.
Hey, that's good. That's the most important thing. You're feeling better. You can come back to us and you'll be ready for Christmas.
Absolutely. It was quite funny because, you know, when you're that ill, you're tired and you're not really with it. The days pass in a bit of a blur.
Yeah.
And then when I'm kind of back in the real world, suddenly it's like the middle of December. I'm like, Christmas is like 9 days away. It's great.
Yeah, there's not long to go at all now.
Yeah, I know.
You got anything planned? Are you all Christmassy at home?
Yeah, we're pretty much done. I think we've got all the presents are done and we've got a couple of movies left. Obviously, no trip to see Santa this year, but I think with them being 6 and 9 now, I think they're on their way out in terms of believing, you know?
Yeah, they're sort of, they know what's going on now. They're getting close to it at least anyway.
Yeah, I think this might be the last year we've even got an excuse to do anything Santa related. I think after this year, the magic will have gone, I think.
But then that's okay as well, because you sort of all just, you cut the crap and you just get down to the most important parts, for spending family time together.
Yeah, and also it means that Santa doesn't steal the thunder when he delivers the best presents.
Exactly. That's the thing, yeah. Finally, you can take the credit for it.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
I've worked hard. I bought you all these years.
It was me all along. Well, one man who might not be having as much of a good Christmas as myself or you would be the founder of Nexus Mutual, Mr. Hugh Karp, which is a name I quite admire. So he is the founder of this DeFi project that Nexus Mutual has been going since sort of 2017. And they posted on Twitter this morning that he has had his hardware wallet hacked and something like $8.2 million worth of the NXM, the proprietary tokens, stolen by a hacker. Now, that's nothing new in itself. You know, you might think that's pretty standard. That's happened quite a lot. But there's a couple of things around this that are interesting. So I'll run through the story quickly. And there's a couple of things I'd be interested to get your opinion on from I wouldn't say an insider's point of view. That gives you a bit of a dark side, but just to get a different person's point of view to see if I'm not going completely insane here.
That sounds fun. Let's do it.
All right. So his computer was taken over by a hacker, and the hacker replaced the MetaMask add-on for like Firefox, Chrome, or whatever it is.
Yeah, the extension. Yeah.
So they replaced that with a fraudulent one that obviously is very good for pinching your details. So again, nothing too much wrong with that. You might think that's kind of stuff is going on. So he set this transaction in motion to send all these tokens, $8 million worth of tokens, to himself. And Hugh Karp seems to have okayed this on his ledger. I mean, either he okayed it on his hardware wallet, although Nexus Mutual say that the hacker tricked him into signing a different transaction, which allowed the fraudulent transfer to go through, sending all these tokens into the hacker's wallet. That in itself I'm a bit obscure about. But then from there, they say that the hacker was a member of the Nexus Mutual platform, which meant he had gone through all the KYC, all the AML. He was registered on their platform as a real person with a real identity. Now, firstly, pretty stupid move from his point of view. They know who you are. You've registered your wallet, so they're going to find out who you are and, tell the police who you are. But he seems to have changed the address he registered with just a few days after registering. And despite the fact that he has got, I presume, his passport photo, some kind of photo ID, some kind of proof of where he lives, and, all the things they ask you to do in these exchanges now, they've got all this information, but they still, the way they phrased it, they said there's an investigation ongoing to identify the attacker, which made me a bit suspicious because I thought, well, surely you would know exactly who it was and you would say, we know who you are and we're after you. And when I first came across the story, I read through the Twitter thread they put out on this, and then I came back to it a few hours later to do some double checking, and I'm sure they deleted a tweet or deleted a reference where they said that it might be a case of false identity, and he might have uploaded false documents. So there's quite a lot to unpack there. So,
Yeah.
I mean, from the very beginning, the fact that this guy hacked into his computer, fair enough, replaced the MetaMask, fair enough. But then I don't quite understand how you can start a transfer going through a ledger or through a hardware wallet, and you can get the guy to sign a transfer that he hasn't initiated, even if it's a fake transfer. He hasn't initiated it. So am I being dumb here, or is this down to him pressing OK on his hardware wallet without initiating a transaction first?
Yeah, it sounds like it. Unless they just sort of timed it. Maybe inside the new extension they uploaded, perhaps they put in something that sort of tracks when he's about to make a transaction. So then they push it quickly to his ledger. So he thinks he's signing a transaction for him, but in reality it's the hackers. Now, I'm not saying that's what they've done, but I mean, that's what I would do if I knew how to do that stuff, probably.
It would make sense, wouldn't it? If you've got the ability to do that and you've hacked into his MetaMask, you just wait until he has started a transaction, then yeah, you ping your one across, he presses OK, which, again, he hasn't taken basic precautions. I mean, I know that when you sign a transaction on a ledger or any hardware wallet that's got a graphic display, it comes up with the address you're sending to. And I know it's one of these things that you say, oh, you should always check the address or check the first 5 digits and the last 5 digits of the address to make sure it's accurate. I don't really think, I guess 99% of people don't do that. But this is a perfect example of why taking that 5 seconds to check just the first 5 and the last 5 is usually enough to make you realise it's not going to the right place.
Yeah, exactly. Like, it just shows you how easy it can be to lose everything, even if you're really careful and use a hardware wallet. You still have to check. You still have to be very careful.
Yeah, it's still a hardware wallet doesn't protect you from hackers. It protects you from a range of hacks, but it doesn't protect you from your own, I wouldn't say stupidity, your own laziness, I suppose. You still have checks you have to go through.
Exactly. It's still down to you. You still approve it, or you don't give it the stamp of approval. It's still up to you. He still physically had to say, yeah, that's fine, let's send it to this.
Yeah.
So it's his laziness there.
Yeah, so if he had checked the address, he would have realised it was the wrong one, and then wouldn't have sent it through. So that would make sense if they have had the ability to do that. That makes more sense why he pressed OK for the transaction. So the guy the hacker has been trying to cash out these tokens. He's done a small percentage so far, but Hugh Karp went onto Twitter and basically kind of said, "Well done, you got me," to the guys, and then he's offered them $300,000 and this kind of promise of no investigation. Now, if I'm this guy and I have knowingly, I've given my correct identification over, you'd be pretty silly not to take that deal because they're going to track you down.
Yeah.
But it seems like he has managed to fool their KYC system and upload fake documents. And so there's a completely illegal or invalid person is down as him as the member, in which case shame on them for not doing their KYC properly, and on kind of fair play to him for assuming they're not going to do it properly, and I'm guessing taking the 8 million quid and running.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's no way to know that this guy doesn't have either identities as well. So if he's already faked one identity, he knows how to do it. He can get away with it. So, I mean, he could have created another identity at an exchange, cashed out at exchanges, which is what he's started doing, I believe.
Yeah, he's done a bit so far.
So, I mean, there's potentially he could just get away with this and no one will know who he is. This happens quite a lot in the online poker world. So these people create bots to play for them. They play better than humans do. But the casino, the online poker rooms and casinos, obviously they know who the bots are. So what a lot of these bot owners are doing, they will pay you to give you all the, to create an account and KYC it. So you basically upload your identity, sort of you rent out your identity to these people. And, they go off, make millions off your account using your identity. And then obviously when the poker room finds out that, it is a bot, not an actual person, then your identity gets banned from their room and subsequently other online poker rooms.
That's interesting.
If you don't mind. So if you don't care about playing online poker, you can rent out and sell your identity. But then there's always the risk of, you're selling your photos, your passport, your driver's license images to strangers on the internet, which is a bad idea. Don't do it.
I mean, if you make 5 or 10 grand from that, that's fantastic. But then if you're at the risk of having your identity stolen, then yeah,
you've just sold your identity, haven't you? It's not really stolen.
You basically have. I think I would do clinical trials before I would sell my identity for money.
Yeah.
And this whole thing reminds me of something I wrote about last week. Did you see the blockchain security guy who dressed up as Borat and then some Borat Taylor Swift abortion nightmare? Did you see that?
No.
Let me find his name. I want to give him some credit. Let me find out what his name was. Without the pictures, it's not going to do it justice, but I'll try and explain it. So his name is Rich Sanders, and he is a blockchain forensics and cybersecurity investigator. And I don't know from personal experience or just he was just having a laugh, he tried to see what he could get away with in terms of fooling exchange KYC procedures. And imagine you went to a fancy dress shop and said, can you please give me the cheapest, worst Borat costume you've got? A massive black curly wig, a terrorist's beard, and he dressed up like Borat, waving the Kazakhstan flags and stuff. He got a fake passport made up with that photograph. And he did the whole Twitter thread in Borat's voice. And he fooled both Huobi and KuCoin into giving him tier 1 or tier 2 trading access through that fake ID. They cleared him, no problem.
No.
So that was one thing. Then he went one better. He kept the beard, which may be his own beard, I'm not sure. But either way, he kept the beard. He put on, again, he's gone back to the same fancy dress shop and he said to them, can I have your worst Taylor Swift wig, please? And they've given him a Taylor Swift wig. He's stuck on this Taylor Swift blonde wig. He's put on some blue eyeshadow and some lipstick with the beard. He's bought some god-awful charity shop silver sequin dress. Taken a photo, again, mocked up a fake passport of this, and gone through the same process again. He got through to tier 2 of KuCoin's KYC clearance and Huobi's first tier again.
What?
And it just shows how chronic these things are. And if he can get away with that, it is no surprise that this hacker, who was trying to look reasonable, wasn't trying to look as ridiculous as he could, has got away with it and managed to hoodwink them into, presumably, it seems like it hoodwinked them into confirming his fake ID. So yeah, the guy's name is Rich Sanders, but on Twitter it's @RaindropActual. If you've got a chance, have a look at that. It's well worth seeing.
Oh, have you? I've just looked at the photo, like the pictures he's put up, and how could you prove these as legit?
I don't know.
The font isn't the same. The color's not the same. It's not straight. It's like he's done it in paint.
Yeah. But again, going back to bots, they must have automated systems because no person works that fast. But how bad is their automated system if it's approving that nonsense?
It shouldn't be happening. You know, where people spend so much money to create like deep fakes, like you say, and you can do it with paint, then there's something wrong.
This guy is long gone. This guy's got nothing to fear. Hugh Karp hasn't got much chance of getting his $8.2 million worth of tokens back. I think he's not going to give up millions that he could just funnel through mixers and stuff, you know, and cash out over a period of time. He's not going to give that up for $300,000 because they're not going to find him.
No, of course, unless maybe there's a bit more of a conspiracy here. Maybe, you know, he did it himself.
That was one of the first responses. It was interesting to see, and it kind of is a bit of a sign of the times that one of the first responses was a guy saying, look, I'm not accusing anybody of anything here, but do we absolutely know for sure that he wasn't behind this? So who knows? Stranger things have certainly happened.
Exactly. I mean, just because he's the founder of this thing doesn't mean that, you know, he didn't do it. We've seen people do it to their own exchanges and platforms before.
What was that project a while ago that was... They didn't know it, but they were...
Cred,
of course it was, yeah, Cred.
Cred, yeah.
There may be something as sinister as that, you know. He knows something that we don't know. He knows something that the staff don't know.
Yeah.
Everyone thought that was a viable project, but it turned out they've been leaking money, hundreds of millions of dollars through that one other guy for a while.
Yeah, it's so true.
Again, like you, I hope that's not the case. It doesn't seem to be the case on paper at first sight, but then none of these things do. So I guess we'll see in the coming weeks what happens. But personally, I think, Hugh Karp, you've lost your money.
You're listening to the Fully Crypto podcast.
The other thing we're going to discuss is Alexander Vinnik, who is the founder of the now defunct BTCE exchange, but there's a lot more to his history than that. The reason we're talking about him is because last week he was found guilty of money laundering by a French court and sentenced to 5 years in prison. But that's the end point of a crazy, crazy story. Do you know much about this guy?
No, not really. Only that I remember he got arrested a couple of years ago, and I think someone tried to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
Or there was at least a rumor that someone was going to kill him. But that's all I really know.
He is, well, last year when I wrote about him last year, he was 39, so I'm assuming he's just turned 40 now. He founded BTCE, the exchange, in 2011 and didn't really do that much until 2014, which was the year when Mt. Gox collapsed. And pretty much overnight, the exchange went up to 570,000 users holding 79,000 Bitcoin between them. Cool. Which, when you are a kind of pretty small nothing exchange and a massive exchange, the biggest in the world at the time, gets hacked, and suddenly your user base jumps, I don't know, say tenfold, and your Bitcoin hold, and then their accumulated Bitcoin holding, triples or quadruples as well. Something's not quite right there. So it's pretty certain he was, or his exchange at least, was involved in receiving some of the stolen Mt. Gox Bitcoin. But obviously there was 850,000 stolen, so didn't all go there. Once this came out, the authorities started to get interested in him, and in 2017 the US authorities tried to find out who was behind BTCE, because they thought there was a lot more than just the Mt. Gox hack going on. There was some pretty shady, dodgy dealings going on, and BTCE, if you remember, was also the exchange where the guy that hacked Silk Road, do you remember last week or the week before, there was the guy that hacked Silk Road, kept the Bitcoin for years, and then the US Marshals got it off him?
Yeah.
This is the exchange he sold a little bit of Bitcoin through. And then in 2017, he was arrested. Like you said, he was arrested while he was on holiday in Greece, because the US issued an arrest warrant for him, and the Greek authorities tracked him down because they had evidence of him laundering around $4 billion worth for various individuals over the years. He was a wanted man for some time. They finally got him in Greece, and at the same time, BTCE was seized and taken offline by the authorities. So 2017, he's arrested and BTCE goes down. And then, as we said at the time last week, this was the time when they got their hands on all the user accounts, the transactional data. They got hold of everything BTCE had done from 2011 to 2017.
Jeez, that's a lot of records.
It's a lot of records, and it's a lot of people doing some very, very dodgy things. So that would have been a fantastic payday for the police. So you're thinking that, as the US did, that he's going to get extradited to the US. They were preparing the papers to send him off to the US to stand trial. Suddenly, though, Russia and France joined in and said that, hang on a second, we intend to charge him as well. He should come here. So out of the blue, you've got Greece, the US and Russia, who are all fighting to get hold of him while he's still in this jail cell in Greece. And getting one extradition is a painful process. 3 at the same time, I can't even imagine the legal wranglings that go on with that.
Yeah, I mean, who do you even give him to first? Because once he goes to, let's face it, once he goes to the Russian prison, he's not coming out.
No, that is even if they wanted to prosecute him. He's a Russian national. He's wanted by the US. There's every chance they want to save his ass rather than prosecute him.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Yeah, he's just going to go to Russia and be a free man.
You'd think so. So, interesting though, in July 2018, the Greek court changed their minds. They had provisionally agreed to send him to the US, but they changed their minds and said that actually France can have him. And then the Russian officials then threatened reprisals with the Greek courts and said, if we don't get him, we're going to do this, that and the other. And the same court then changed their minds 2 weeks later and approved the Russian request. So he's gone from the US to France, now going to Russia.
Okay.
The Supreme Court then backed the Russian demands, which obviously pissed off the US and French again. In the middle of this, as you say, there's an assassination attempt against him. In May 2018, the Greek police uncover this poisoning attempt. Now, if I just say poisoning assassination attempt, who are you going to jump to there?
Russia.
Absolutely.
It's their MO.
Exactly. So while the authorities may have been quite keen to take him back and look after him, some of these Russian nationals clearly weren't, and they tried to, I presume, hire some of the prison warders, get them onto their pay, and try and bump him off.
You'd like to think that in jail you're kind of safe. You'd like to think that the prison guards are going to protect you from outside threats, like nothing can get in. But in reality, it's not like that, is it? Let's face it, especially when you got the money of a certain Eastern European government.
Well, yeah, I mean, even if you're not associated with anyone high up, if you are the kind of person that can afford to launder billions of dollars in cryptocurrencies, you can afford to pay off the right people in the right country to do the right thing as far as you're concerned.
Exactly. I mean, you could even pay and say you're from XXX country, even if you're not. So, it could, for example, be the Americans just trying to make Russia look bad, which wouldn't shock me as well.
Well, it's interesting you should say that. There is a bit of a kind of a political ramification here as well.
Oh.
He survived this assassination attempt and he was denied food or drink by people he didn't know. And at the same time, Russia put in another extradition request, which both the kind of lower Greek court and the Supreme Court both accepted, only for another French request to block this one in December 2018. So he's been in custody just over a year by this point, and he's still no closer to knowing where he's gonna end up. Around this time again, the reason I say about the US authorities link is that he finds himself tied up in the Mueller investigation, if you remember that far back.
Yeah.
Because BTCE, one of their clients, if you like, one of their customers, was Fancy Bear. And since 2016, when obviously the Russians hacked the DNC servers, wasn't it? The money that was paid to them to do it was funneled through BTCE and turned into different currency. So there was a strong link between Vinnik and this operation. Luckily for him, those investigations weren't pursued, but it just shows again the various threads this whole story has.
Yeah, I mean, it sort of makes you think that perhaps the Russians want to get him back so he can't tell the US anything more, perhaps.
Yeah, obviously he knows a lot about a lot of people and a lot of their dealings. So there's a reason why, like you say, he's wanted by certain people.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, back in Greece, the Supreme Court upheld the French extradition request, and he finally looked like he was going to be on his way. But then he went on hunger strike, probably because he was so annoyed with all the buggering about by the 3 different countries.
Yeah, so fed up.
If you're being denied food by certain people, you haven't got it to eat or drink anyway.
Yeah.
Officially, it was put down as a protest against his treatment and a lack of a fair trial by the Greek courts. But yeah, it could have been that. It could have been something different. But as part of the Supreme Court hearings, he said he'd only end his hunger strike if he could go to Russia. So Russia has become despite them trying to kill him, that's become his primary option. So in March 2019, he was campaigning for a release back to Russia. He turned up to court. The court hearing about this appeal, he turned up in an ambulance because his health was so bad. He had to be kind of taken in an ambulance there. But his appeal was rejected and he was back in Greek custody again. And finally, on January the 11th, his extradition to France was rubber stamped, and he was finally on his way to France after July 2017 he was arrested. Only January the 11th 2020 is it finally decided where he would go.
Yeah, that's a horrible amount of time just to sit waiting, not knowing your outcome.
Yeah, it's pretty grim.
And what's happened to him now?
So Vinnik arrived in France on January the 30th to face trial, and obviously the trial was delayed because of COVID. They wanted to try him on 3 separate charges. They wanted to charge him with extortion and association with a criminal enterprise, as well as money laundering. but he was acquitted of the extortion and association with the criminal enterprise charges. So he only got done for the money laundering. Doesn't say exactly how much this was for. I mean, I know they mentioned there was the $4 billion he was thought to have laundered, but it doesn't say how much he was actually charged with. But yeah, he was, after all that waiting, he was given a 5-year jail sentence. So let's say he spends 3.5 years for good behaviour in there. There's still no confirmation of what happens when he leaves, but you can picture the scene. When he finally steps out of that Paris prison, you're going to have US and Russian officials potentially trying to get him again.
Yeah, exactly. I think it could be an interesting grand finale, so to speak. I mean, I guess it just depends how the French let him go. Do they just open the door and be like, see you later? Or do they, hide him away in witness protection somewhere in the south of France, maybe with his own vineyard or something?
I don't know why they would. I mean, unless there's kind of humanitarian reasons, because the only reason you would have something like that is if you successfully campaign to say your human rights were in danger.
Yeah.
Because obviously in the UK you can't get deported if you can prove your life is in danger by where they're taking you. So maybe he can say the same thing. He can say, well, if you release me, I'm going to get taken by the US where I'm going to face unfair treatment. For his sake, I hope that it's a fair process and it's not messing him about that much. But then, on the flip side, you don't really want to wish too well for a guy that's helped launder billions of dollars worth of cryptocurrency from pretty bad business.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he has had a very interesting life, Mr. Alexander Vinnik. It's been from 2017 to now, it's been a pretty wild ride. I imagine when he started his little BTCE exchange back in 2011, he didn't think that 9 years later he would have funneled $4 billion worth for some criminals and potentially some terrorists, and is now sitting in a prison in France awaiting extradition to the US when he's finished. I very much think he didn't see this coming.
Well, so if they send him to America, maybe they'll send him to Guantanamo Bay.
You can kind of see it, can't you? You can see it where he manages to do a deal, and on the last day, the French wash their hands of him, and the Americans are waiting by the front door to grab him, and his lawyers sneak him out of the basement, and he's out, and he's off and back to Russia the same day.
Yeah, he's going to need to make some deals to be given over to the Russians, isn't he? Let's face it.
If he was to go back to Russia, these guys are going to find him. So he has got much less chance of talking, or should I say he's got much more chance of showing and proving he's not going to tell the Russians anything by going back to Russia.
Yeah.
Well, I think that wraps things up for today. Again, we are sorry, completely my fault that we weren't with you for the past couple of weeks, but to make up for that, you lucky people, we are going to do 2 podcasts this week. So we're going to be back on Friday morning. We may even find out what's happened to the Nexus Mutual funds by that point. Who knows?
Yeah, it could be a very exciting week. I'm going to be keeping my eyes on crypto Twitter very closely, and we'll let you guys know how it goes.
So it just remains to say, don't forget, of course, to like and subscribe on your platform of choice, and let us know just what you think of us at our social media handles at FullyCrypto. And don't forget, there is still 1 day left to enter our Trezor 1 wallet giveaway. So if you fancy pressing random buttons and losing $8.2 million worth of tokens, then you can do so by heading over to our homepage and following the links to our Gleam page, where you can enter the competition to win a Trezor 1 hardware wallet.
Yep, the tasks are really quick, easy to do, and we'll have all your details so we can steal your identity and create fake accounts on exchanges.
And poker channels.
Yes, and poker. We can play lots of really bad poker and give you a bad name.
Alex, it's been a pleasure to talk to you again. I've missed our chat.
No, I've missed them. I missed your voice too. I'm glad you're feeling better.
Thank you very much. Thank you guys for listening, as usual, and we will speak to you later on this week.
Yeah, ta-ta, stay safe, and have a great evening.
Bye-bye.